Hello, this is Jayanthura Chaudhary and we are here to talk about ports on the Secretariat's Geoeconomic show. We are going to talk about 5 ports, 2 on the western side of India and 3 to the east of India. The 5 ports are Chabahar in Iran's Balochistan province, Gwadar in Balochistan province of Pakistan, and on to the right of India we have the Chittagong port in Bangladesh and then the Sittwe port in Arakans in Myanmar. The 5th port is the Kyaukphyu port, also in the Arakans in Myanmar. It's on a Rivalry island off the coast of Arakans. Now that is China's key project. On the other hand, there is Gwadar, which China owns in Pakistan. Now these 2 ports have been built in order to both pipe oil as well as transport goods, avoiding 2 choke posts. One on one side you have the Straits of Malacca, through which Chinese ships must pass if they want to take oil or goods to mainland China. On the other side you have the Suez Canal. So you avoid those 2 and then you come to China. From the Gwadar port you go right up to Xinjiang, and from the Kyaukphyu port you go right up to Kunming in southeastern China. So these are vital ports for China, but unfortunately these ports haven't taken off. The problem is, on the Gwadar side you have the Baloch rebels who have been demonstrating against it, have been attacking the Chinese pipeline, have been killing Chinese personnel, as well as Baloch civilian demonstrators who have been demonstrating against the fact that you are building a highway project, you are building a port without the involvement of the local populace. You are building special economic zones which will dot that highway, and not a single Baloch has been employed in these projects. So there is a different kind of story there, with China is facing the flak there. Plus, no company has as yet really adopted Gwadar port as its own. They aren't willing to do business through Gwadar. On the other hand, there is Kyaukphyu, which is a well-built port. China is making it. China is also building a pipeline right up to Kunming. It has already built a pipeline, in fact. There's a highway which functions. It was sending out goods through that route, but what has happened is, in the meanwhile, the Arakan army has suddenly started a revolt in Myanmar. Not suddenly, about 13 months back they started off, and now they have really come into a commanding position where the entire Rakhine state, Arakans is also called the Rakhine state, is now under their control. Some 15 out of 18 major cities are with the Arakan army. The whole Arakan state is with them right now. They have also taken over part of the Chin state, which means they are also on India's border. The Arakani state has a border with Bangladesh, whereas the Chin state has a border with India's Mizoram and then Manipur. And then again there is a Sangyan state which is also in Myanmar, which faces India's Nagaland and Manipur. Now all these states have been taken over by Burmese rebels, Myanmarese rebel if you want to call it that. And these rebels, that means the Myanmarese army no longer faces India. But the Arakanis are the most well-developed, well-organized group, and they control the entire Arakans, which means Kyaukphyu is now something which China will have to renegotiate. Though the Arakanis have given signals that they will do business with both India and China, which means our project, which is based in Sittwe and from where there is a multimodal route which goes into India's northeast, can function. It is not yet started. That project is being built as of now. But the Arakanis are giving us some kind of assurance that, look, if you want to bring goods in through this place, please do so. But do help us develop the Arakans. The Arakanis are extremely poor people. They need industry there, they need jobs there. So they would like 2 major regional powers, India and China, to invest in the Arakans, just as China and India were investing in Myanmar. So we have, you can say, a glimmer of hope as far as the Arakans is concerned, but it's just a glimmer, because right now Arakans is a war-torn area where the Myanmarese jets are pounding the Arakanis and the Arakanis artillery is relentlessly bombing the Myanmaris. So it's a war zone. You really can't go in and build ports or highways in a war zone. You have to wait for the war to end and look out for which side is actually winning the war. So that's one part of the story. The problem or the good thing about the Sittwe port is if you can build the Sittwe port and you can have a highway leading up to the northeast, that means that the northeast will have its own port in the Sittwe. This project really started off when Jaswant Singh went to Myanmar sometimes in 2000, and since then the Myanmaris made us promises. After that we signed deals, and ultimately during Manmohan Singh's period we started building that port, and now we are still about to finish it if we can during this period. The other thing that we had achieved was friendly relations with Bangladesh. And the Chittagong port, which is one of the deepest deep water ports in this region, was made available to us. They promised that they would allow us to use the Chittagong port, which we have stopped using since the 1965 war with Pakistan, to service the northeast. But we haven't really used it much. For a few goods and services we have used it, but since then that route has not been used, and now with a change in regime in Bangladesh, it is unlikely that we will immediately or in the near future get permission to use Chittagong. Now let us look to the west of India. We spoke about Gwadar and the problems that China faces in Gwadar. The Chabahar port is another port in Iran which India wants to use. We have signed a 10-year contract to use what is called the Shahid Beheshti terminal in that port. And this port is connected, at least theoretically connected, to Central Asia. So we should be able to ship goods to Central Asia. We haven't been able to do that, mainly because there are a number of problems, customs, in some places the railway network is not really working. There are other problems which are there, issues with Central Asian countries and Iran. Those have to be solved before we can really start rolling a lot of goods towards Central Asia. And Central Asia is a good dynamic market for India. If we are able to service it, yes, we can have a foothold into a market which is going to grow in the future years. The other market which Chabahar can support is Afghanistan. In fact, Chabahar, our interest in Chabahar was because we wanted to avoid going through Pakistan to service Afghanistan, to sell goods to Afghanistan, to buy goods from Afghanistan. Now Chabahar can do it. When the Taliban came, we thought that story is over. But no, there are twists in every tale, and the Taliban held talks with Indian authorities in Dubai some time back, and they have made promises to use the Chabahar port. They need us as much as we need them, or perhaps more, because right now the Taliban is engaged in a firefight at times with Pakistan. So they need a route to sell goods to the rest of the world. They also need a route from which they can bring in goods from the rest of the world to Afghanistan, which is a landlocked country. And what better than Chabahar? So there again, India's ancient relationship with Afghanistan, the friendship that has sustained regardless of which regime rules Afghanistan, might come into play. And it looks like that Chabahar investment will start paying off sometime soon. So there is a glimmer of hope in the east, there is a glimmer of hope in the west, and we have to live with that for the time being till much more development happens there. Thank you, gentlemen.